astronauts, I'm Spaceface Dev, and today I want to go over 16 Game Jam tips I've learned after making 16 Game Jam games, one for each game I've made. When I first started making games, scope was easily the biggest issue I had. My first game was supposed to be an interactive simulation tactics type game, but I only had enough time to finish a slideshow. Keep the scope of your game small. With my second Game Jam game, I wanted to make something I knew I could finish. Before making games, I was really into building websites, so I decided to implement that into my second game. Experimenting is great and is a large part of participating in game jams altogether, but I noticed I learned much faster when I built off of what I already knew how to do. Build your game ideas based on what you're capable of. Game Jam themes may feel like a limitation, but working despite such limitations is what helps us grow and learn as developers. Abide by the Game Jam's theme. This may sound obvious, but sometimes people forget it. When you're grinding to complete your game, UI and main menus can often be an afterthought, but they're also the first thing the player sees. Put a good amount of thought and effort into your main menu and UI, and give the player a good first impression. Interesting level design is always great to see, but make sure your mechanics work before all else. A polished game with beautiful graphics and thought-provoking design can pique a player's interest, but it won't make a bad game fun. Working in a team allows team members to focus on specific aspects of a game, meaning that working in a team is also a great way to focus your learning when first starting out. When making a game for a game jam where multiple themes are being publicly voted on, like in Ludum Dare, it can be a great idea to come up with ideas you enjoy for each and every theme, so that when the final theme is announced, you have a general idea of what to make. A quick note on that, don't get too attached to any of those ideas, because then you start trying to make a game built around one theme and implementing it into another, which can work, but often leads to a big mess. UI and text on screen can sometimes be tricky to implement well, so try using level design to introduce game mechanics instead. Adding a story to your game can make mindless level grinding into something at least a bit more interesting. Yeah, pretty much add stories to help forge a greater connection between the player and your game. Use a consistent color palette throughout your game to add visual consistency and give the game a style that players will remember. Okay, this is more up to personal preference, but physics games are so good, really good. Make more physics games. Adding visual feedback wherever you can, whether that is player death or moving to the next level, can really benefit the game. Screen shake when you shoot, particles on the ground as you walk, and so on are other great common examples of visual feedback used effectively in games. It can quickly make a mediocre game a lot better. It's a natural phenomenon. Playing games with other people is almost always more fun than playing a game alone. Make a co-op game to help form a better experience for your players. Likewise, to tip 12, add audio feedback to make the game feel more responsive and alive. Plus, good music never hurts. Game jams are places to experiment, so take common tropes and change them. Instead of a standard health bar, make the player decay, or have the player's body be their weapon's ammo, rather than filling the screen with a generic ammo bar. Now, of course, that is just one example, but the general idea is just to look at every aspect of a game that seems overused and consistent between games of the same genre and style, and change that aspect of the game to make something more interesting. This has been said multiple times already, but I want to bring it home here. Game jams are places to learn and experiment. Build off of what you know, yes, but don't just stick to that. When making a game jam game, your goal should be to learn at least one thing. Learn a single thing, and that can make the whole experience worth it, even if you don't get the #1 ranking in the jam. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Tiger J and AI, for all of your support, and thank you to everyone who watched the video. I'll see you all later.